Hi. Hi, it's me again. I'm Maria Di Gianmarco. I'm part of the Contemporary Art Modern Project, Camp Gallery. And today I'm going to be going live with Maru Ulivi, who is, she's a Miami-based photographer and life coach. She's also a member of Fiber Artists Miami Association, and she's a camp artist. We've had the pleasure of knowing Maru since last year's edition of Women Pulling at the Threads of Social Discourse. And I've also seen her series, Callar Duele Más, which roughly translates to like silence is worse, like it's more harmful. And it's basically like a feminist take on how we have to speak up, like the power of the feminine voice in this world. So I'm really excited. This is part of a series of ongoing conversations that we're doing with people who have participated in our current exhibition, 64 Women Pulling at the Threads of Social Discourse. It's the third year in a row that we've done it. The first year was more of like a takedown of like capitalism, to put it that way, through textile. Last year's edition was 40 women pulling at the threads of social discourse. And so the participating artists made 40 by 30 flags, and it was in commemoration of the centennial of women's right to vote in the United States. And so this year we kind of, not that we did the opposite, but instead of, taking this very precise point of reckoning, this year is like a little more about warmth and unity. So all of the artists, 68 total, made 24 by 24 squares, and they're displayed in the Camp Gallery in Miami like a quilt. And so, just like last year's show and the first edition of Women Pulling at the Threads of Social Discourse, it's ultimately about how like everybody's experiences work alongside one another, even if they're not from the same background, if they don't use the same technique, etc. So it's very special. Maru's square this time around is titled, I don't know if I can curse. It's titled F the Rules. Basically, it's the F word, the rules, and it's technically F the Rules too. So Maru's first F the Rules, which is very Maru, was part of Feminism from South to North, which was a sister exhibition to 40 Women Pulling at the Threads of Social Discourse. It was predominantly Latin American artists tackling something that's like almost at this point, I guess, like innately Latin American, unfortunately. Tackling, feminist issues, specifically in Argentina, because most of the artists were or are Argentine. But it was stunning, and so Maru made 3 mixed media pieces, textile and photography specifically. And so F the Rules too is an extension of that. If you've seen anything about the exhibition anywhere, you've seen the image, I'm sure. It's one of my personal favorites, which is saying a lot because there's 100 pieces to look through or pick from. So I'm just waiting for Maru to join. In the meantime, I can tell you more about Maru Ulivi. She's, like I said, a Venezuelan photographer and life coach. Her work in the last couple of years especially has been tackling just like how silence is not conducive to our well-being, especially as women. How our bodies are something to celebrate, how we must uplift one another. I want to say unconditionally, but sometimes that's hard. And it's titled, her work, as of late has been titled Callar duele más. So again, that roughly translates to like silence hurts more, which is, if you're bilingual, you know that sometimes interpreting back and forth, you don't get the precise meaning. So I'm going to be asking her about her photography and how that plays into like her approach to textiles, because I don't think that she is a textile artist, TM. I'm going to be asking her what she thinks about the role of textiles, especially as a photographer. I can't really think of two styles that are almost diametrically opposed, photography and textiles. But they do elicit the same kind of emotions from us. Maru, to pop up.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, you look stunning.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. How are you? Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for saying yes. It's so special to be able to have conversations, especially like about this show, about your work with you. So thank you so much for saying yes.
So thank you for the invitation. I'm honored that you invited me.
Of course. I was just, before you joined, I was talking about, I don't know if I can say the F word on live.
Well, I don't know, but I'm going to say it because that's the name of my work.
Okay, you say it, I'll say it. So I was just talking about the piece that you made for this year's exhibition and the piece that came before it.
This one.
Yeah. So it was Callar duele más, but you also had a piece in Feminismo del Sur a Norte.
Yes, also.
The first Fuck the Rule.
Yes. Well, yes, all my work has, and again, thank you for the invitation. And all my work has to do with women. I come from a very traditional family in Venezuela. I've been here in the US for 7 years. I'm an interior designer. That's my job and my profession. But I started with photography 6 or 7 years ago. And all my work has always been around women.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say that because you are a feminist, and I would say yes, because I defend whatever, I think that I'm very proud of being a woman. I'm a mom. I have 5 kids, 2 grandkids, but I'm not like the extremes of, of feminism, this side or that side. I would say I'm in the middle. And I think that all human beings should be valued as people, and that we all have the same rights.
Absolutely.
Well, when I started my work, my first book, I've done 2 books. One, it's called Jaulas, Cages, and on that book I speak all around what imprisons women and what do we do not say.
Mm-hmm.
And on the second book, I spoke about the same theme, but what does do women don't say about sex or their sex lives?
I've seen.
And so all my work goes around, first I started with photography, and then it came to a moment, I think it was just before the COVID started, that I felt that photography didn't say all that I wanted to say, and that I wanted to include something else.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing the works you saw, and I always use my photography. Usually, most of them are with photographs that I take,
Mm-hmm.
and then I transform them with textiles, and I embroidery them or sew them, a machine sew them, or whatever it comes to me and to my hands.
Cool. Oh my God. First of all, I had no idea that you were an interior designer.
Yeah, yeah.
So now all of these questions that I was going to ask you are like evolving. Wow. So, sorry. I'm getting home. So how, I don't know how to ask this now. So you're a photographer first as an artist, I'm assuming, or does your work as an interior designer come before your photographer?
Yeah, I started being, well, I would say I started interior designing and working interior design since I was 20 years old.
Wow.
And I studied interior design and I've done, and I specialize in offices.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really liked to do on that time was houses, and I did houses from my job was like doing interior design for office with office furniture, and I have a company in Venezuela that I took care of very important companies. International companies and companies there, and I sold furniture for Venezuela, the Caribbean, some offices here in Miami, and I loved what I did.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that that training and the way my mind saw things, like arranging things and I have like a really good eye to put things together, and I can imagine them in my head before seeing them. Even though if I had a floor plan or whatever, I did change it. And then when I put it together, I said, no, this has to go here. I don't know how to explain it, but it's something that it's like in me.
Yeah.
And and then photography came just like it was one of my birthdays, and I wanted to be with all my kids, and they started saying one couldn't be there and the other one, it was somewhere else. And a friend of mine told me, I'm going on a photography trip. And I said, okay. And I'm going with you into India. And I said, she said, you cannot come. I said, why not? And she said, well, because you're not a photographer. I said, well, I'll be one. It cannot be that different, it cannot be that hard. So I need the specifications of the camera I have to buy. So I wrote an email and said, okay, what type of camera? What should I buy? And they said, well, we don't know if you're gonna like photography. So this is gonna be, you can use it in manual, you can use it in automatic. And they told me when I arrived, I remember it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and we were supposed to meet at the lobby of the hotel in India at 4, and I was with my the invoice of my camera and my camera in another bag, and I said, well, here I am. What do I have to do? And the teacher at that time told me, you have 3 options. And I said, okay, what are the options? He said, well, you can learn, you can use your camera in automatic, or you can be a tourist and walk around. And I said, okay, I'm going to learn. So, well, I started, the first thing I did was like following the other photographers and trying to see what they were doing. I didn't understand a lot what I was doing. And then they started like explaining to me like how do the diaphragm and the light and the et cetera, et cetera. And I said, so I started learning and learning and learning, and after a while I've understood that you have to know the steps or the way that things are supposed to be done, so you can break that rules. So I studied photography for 2 years, very intense. And I love it's documentary photography, not, I
Mm-hmm.
don't like fashion or food or any of that. And that has been like my journey. And now photography has like become part of all my work. And I'm in love with textile.
Wow.
So
Does the textile come from, would you say, like it's also like rooted in your experience as an interior designer?
I would say that probably a textile, and one of the things that I've discovered that I like is crochet, but not the traditional way, because one of my grandmothers was always with a needle and a thread, and she was always doing crochet. I never ever learned from her,
Mm.
but it was like now I understand why she did it, because it was a way of creating and doing something with your hands and
Mm.
doing something. And for me it's sort of a meditation, and for me it happens exactly the same thing when I take my camera. I forget, I can have whatever problem or whatever joy. If I have my camera in my hand, I forget about everything. And exactly the same thing happens with crochet or macrame or whatever I do. And when I took this was like 2 months ago or 3 months ago, I took a crochet class, and I said it was the sensation, it was the same as was with my camera, that it seemed that I've always had a crochet needle in I said, this is like in me. And photography, my father did a lot of photographs, so
Mhm.
probably some way, somewhere,
It's like
it,
getting.
yes, yes.
So how, I'm telling you, like hearing, like I had no idea about any of this. So I want to start with you and your experiences in India, because oh my God, that's just, I've never heard of somebody being so bold as like, okay, this isn't working out, so I'm gonna do the complete opposite of it, which is like, okay, I'll figure it out. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
on a photography trip to India, leave everything behind. So how does that show up in the way that you do your experiences in India show up in your current work?
Yeah, I would say so. When I make a plan and I start like imagining things that how, for example, when you did this show, the ones with Fama and with the flags, I had all this idea that I was gonna do, and for me, like I know that there's something in me that I cannot close my mouth and not say what I really think. Of
Yeah.
course, I always respect the other person, and but I think that there's an injustice of something. I have to say it. My father always told me since I was very little, and he called me, tú eres una rebelde sin causa. So you're a rebel without a cause. And I remember that I was 6, 7 years old, and always told him, no, I'm a rebel with a cause, and my
Yeah.
cause is what is women. And my father, like always, you're gonna be a very good lawyer. And I said, no, I'm not gonna be a lawyer. And and he started like, and that's something that I've always had in my mind. And so yes, I decided to go to India. I know it was like bold, and
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? Nobody knows you, everyone is a professional. And yes, and yeah, and sometimes you have to laugh of yourself and say, well, if I don't get it, I don't get it. But but there's a possibility that maybe I'll love it, and maybe I'll learn about this.
And it was the
And and photography has showed me a lot. India is a very special way. It's a very special place, and I think I do have a special connection with India. And what I learned and when I saw, but not only of photography, but about the culture, the way they see things, the connection they have with death. When you die, they're so spiritual, and the colors, the smells, the noise. Everybody's saying, "Oh, this noise is horrible." And I said, "Come on, this is all like the experience that you're getting. I think that all that gives you like the opportunity to create in a different way."
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it has to, I've never been. I've almost been. It's so different. Like it's the complete opposite of what we're used to. Is
Hmm.
that like I would do thing like I would be like reveling in it, like cherishing just how
Mm-hmm.
different it is. Those are the points at which we learn the most about ourselves. And clearly that was for you, because you,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, pre-India, we're not really like a photographer, and then post-India, you're Maru Ulivi photographer.
Yeah, and in India happened something, I don't know if it's strange, and I don't know if many people have had this experience, but I've had it. And someone that I really appreciate told me that this was a mystical experience. I got hit, hit by a cow, a different cow, 3 times.
3 different cows?
Yeah, and 3 times in 3 different places. It was, at the beginning it was really frightening. I don't know why, but they once came up to me, and then I realized that this was like a wakening up and way to that was telling me something, and it was, and cows are sacred in India, so I think that had something to do with what I had to do and that I had to move around. And I've never told this to anyone, that the cow thing, only that friends know it. And it was India was a very special place for me, and it did change my mind, definitely. And the camera has changed my life and my mind also.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you start looking at things completely different, with from complete different angles. And I've taught photography,
Mm-hmm.
and for the people I've taught, and it has been because I wanted to do it. And the philosophical part of a photography, not the, it doesn't matter. Well, of course it matters, but it's, the aperture and all those stuff. It's not that essence of photography. There's so much more.
Oh my God. It's so, there have been philosophers who have said that
Mhm.
like, oh, photography is not real. Like, photography is devoid of all emotion, experience, of all aura. And that's like simply not the case. If anything, I think, especially documentary photography, it gets right to the heart of exactly what the viewer, the audience in this case, is looking at. It's not simply just an image, but it has such a power to we're easily able to put ourselves within the that you've created, rather than, it's a little more difficult in portraiture, um or just oils, or to insert yourself to create empathy. um
Well,
uh,
that was something of my books that I did, because for me it wasn't the only thing I wanted to do, wasn't only the picture, but for me, all the portraits I did on both of my books. One was 156 women, the other one was around the same. And I always took the portrait after I spoke with them. And I interviewed them like for an hour or 2 hours, because I really wanted to see their insight. What did they have to say? I didn't want the picture, the pretty picture or that you see on the magazines. But for me, the important thing was their soul, their really what they had to say, and uh, what they had in their inside that they didn't want to say. And in a way, I think I spoke for them through me.
mm, yeah, like a
And,
mess.
they all started saying, because the question is, when it was in Spanish, it was, ¿Cuál es tu jaula? So, they said, jaula. I don't have, a cage. I'm not imprisoned. I don't have a cage. And it was funny because after like 30 minutes talking, or maybe, and sometimes it was sooner,
Mm-hmm.
all of them said what was really uh, entrapping them on that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And some spoke about whatever, their husband, or they wanted to change sex, or they wanted. One of them was told me that she had a fight with her watch, because her mom always told her that she had to do everything on time and at the correct time. and there was an issue with her father and and her watch, and she said that there it came to an, and after she talked to me, she said that she finally decided to put her watch aside, and that she could live life without having a
Yeah.
watch, and without watching time or measure and or timing everything
Mhm.
that she did. So for me, photography, it's much more than just taking a picture. It's the talking to someone and being, at least for that moment, part of their life and their story. That for me, it's really, really important
And also
for
heal.
me. Yeah, and it's healing for them, and it's, I think, in a way also, it's a very great gift for me, and it's healing for me too. Also, one of the most beautiful stories I have that I remember is this was this lady that was driving me to interview a nun, and because I wanted to see her way of looking at things.
Yeah.
And this woman told me it was like a 3 hour drive, and then this woman started like crying, and I said, "What's the matter?" I didn't know if she wanted to talk or not. And suddenly she asked me, "Can I talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And she told me that she had been abused by the best friend of her brother when she was 8, and the friend was, well, the supposed to be friend was 14. And I said, and she started to, and I said, "I've never ever been able to tell this to anyone." And I started talking about this to my mom, and my mom said, "Shut up. Probably this is not true, and that's your mind telling that story."
Oh my God.
And she was, at the time that I spoke to her, she was 25, and she had never ever let a man beside her because she felt dirty and she felt like she wasn't worth it.
Right.
And after talking to me, she, like 6 or 8 months after, she called me and said, "I want to tell you that I have a boyfriend, and I got engaged and I'm getting married." And she said, "I'm so thankful that thanks to you, I could and speak to someone and tell them what was happening." And I told her, "Listen, it's not, you don't have to thank me. I thank you for the opportunity of listening to you and your story. And I'm so glad that, yeah, you were able to overcome this." It was really amazing, and I've tons of stories of women that I've been able to speak to.
Wow. So clearly this goes beyond, like your artistic practice goes far beyond, what it does for you. But it's more of a, I don't know the word I'm looking for. Like it's more of transformation in community, not just within you, but allowing others to find a space for transformation themselves.
Correct. And because of that, the transformation that I see in other people and in me, since I'm here in the US, and everybody, it's a funny thing that every time I spoke to someone, they asked, "Are you a psychologist? Are you a psychiatrist?" I said, "No, I'm simply me."
Yeah.
And so I decided to get a certification here as a life coach because I wanted to have the tools, if
Mhm.
if I were to refer them or whatever I could do to help them in a way to grow. And got my certification here. I studied for 2 years. I just finished a year ago, but I'm still studying because I love studying and reading. And as you say, my art is not about only expressing whatever I feel, but
Mhm.
it's a healing process, not only for me, but for me, it's very important, the community, and letting the other find in themselves the beautiful soul they have, because we all do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so special too, to be able to just, I guess, witness, not just through yourself, but through, like with your camera, to be able to witness that moment of healing and to be able to then like display it, I guess, that way. to be able to display it in a book, in a gallery, on your website, whatever, like healing is possible. Art is more than just something nice to look at. Art can be, art can inspire all feelings that make us uncomfortable. And so, I mean, I admire your work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So
And well, and fuck the rules, because I'm saying the title, and that's a series of things that I love doing, because I think one of the problem, and especially women have, it's being ruled by rules. So we have to, you have to do this, you have to be a wife, you have to be a mom, you have to work, you have to dress this way, or you have to say the things this way. And who says that? So fuck the rules. I of course you always, and I do always respect the other, because my rights finish where yours start.
Yeah.
But it goes the other way around also. So my right, I do have rights also, and I think it's very important to experience and to live the life you're supposed to live. And through my work, when they told me to do the piece for this exhibition, it was so funny, because it was supposed to be a quilt, and I said, oh my God, why does it have to be a quilt? And and I said, well, mine is a quilt because it has layers. But but it's funny, because it had to be like the rules of it. And we had a rule 24 by 24.
Yeah.
Or 23 by 23. I don't, 24. And I said, okay. And then at the end, Aurora says, yours is a little bit bigger. I said, well, okay, cut it, And, but then he said, you don't have the quilting around. And I said, does it have to be? It has to have a quilt. And then I said, finally, well, okay, let me do some quilt, like on the white areas. But, and I didn't do it, not because I didn't want to follow the rules.
Right.
But I said, but this is a statement about women, and the what I used was, those are photographs for a man. Well, one is a photograph I took, and the other one is from an very old magazine. And I say, when that I overlapped the two, and then I did and the trash can that's on one side, that is where the one of the women, it's like with her elbow, said, we have to trash all those things that don't work for us, and blossom whatever we want to do. And it's
yeah, it's funny though that it's not considered a quote, because I think that piece, along so many of them, if not all of them, that piece really does speak to what the exhibition is all about, which is precisely as you said, one person's right and where the next person's right in. Coexisting is possible. Not everybody looks the same, but we all bring these different things to the table, and it's good enough. It's good enough to do a proper quilt, good enough to be next to a more experimental quilt, which is really, again, what all of this is about. So because your work in general, like outside of the exhibition, already pulls at the threads of social discourse. Like, it's very intentional. What I really want to ask you about is where you see like your blending of textile and photography going, because again, this is the second time you've participated in a web at the Threads of Social Discourse, and your piece, which I'm pretty sure is behind you, for last year's exhibition, pretty similar in the sense that it's like a blending of photography and style. It was vertical, whereas most of the other flags were horizontal, like displayed horizontally. So that spirit is still there. So yeah, if you could just talk to and everyone watching a bit about where textile and photography is, where you're going with textile and photography, I guess I should say.
I think that where I'm going is blending the photography. It's more of the outside and the textile, like the inside, and it's blending them together because I think that everything, as we are all one spiritual being, I think that when you blend everything that you learn, photography, I'm so grateful of photography because it has given me a way of seeing things differently, and I do see things from different angles. Even if I don't have a photograph in my work, there's photography in my work because the way I see and I look at things, it's through the eyes of that photography has showed me. And I'm now doing a new piece. Well, I'm doing a lot of textile alone, but what I'm doing with those is that I'm blending photography, but you cannot see it because I'm doing how do you coding and things with a photograph.
Cool.
But I'm also doing sort of using photographing the pieces that I'm doing and doing something on top of that. And I wouldn't say it's a collage because well,
No.
maybe it is. I wouldn't say it's a collage, but I think everything is together, everything is blended, nothing is separate from one thing. It's the same as interior design. I remember that someone asked me when I had the show from my first book, and she said, "Do you think that interior design has given you that structure that you want to fix things, and probably you want to think you fix people?" And that, that I said, well, I don't know if to fix them, but at least give them the opportunity to see them from another angle. And so, yeah, photography is in me. I even if don't want to take a picture, I do take it. But I think everything is blended in, and it has happened with textile that sometimes I work with textile and I do like a bead, whatever, a piece, macrame with crochet and with whatever, and then I do a photo, and I like better the photo than the piece because the way I photographed it, it makes it completely different. So the other day I said, well, I'm going to put them together and see what's happening. So I'm working on that process and seeing what comes out from that. Probably something wonderful will come out of that.
Now, because it's really, I think you're very gifted at allowing the two medium to like interplay, but they retain what makes them different without taking away the specialness, let's say, of the other media that it's in play with. So I'm really excited to see what comes out of that experiment, honestly.
No, well, I'm excited too. And that started because I was just playing around and I did a photograph and then I did, and I did an overlap and then I put the other thing. Oh, I like this. So I'm going to start it, and I'm working on that. We'll see what it comes out of that.
Well, I do want to ask you about as well. I want to ask you, do have like these relationships with photography and textile, not just how you use them, like you said at the beginning, like where they're at in your roots, your personal roots. How do you, or how do you, I don't know the word in, like, how do you think of textile in the realm of fine art? Do you think that there is room for textiles in fine art? Do you think that there's room for textiles just like in public dialogue, more than cozy or like a grandma thing or a bored woman?
No. I think that textile fits everywhere, and I do think it's a fine art, definitely.
Yeah.
And probably because of history, it has come to that, and it has to do with the same thing that women, they did it in their houses, but textile takes a lot, and there's a lot of soul on that, and the textile pieces. And I think that, of course, and after, I would say the last 2 years, it has come like, textile art is changing, and it's changing the way other people see it. Because, yeah, even my kids once told me with the crochet needle, said, "Oh, that's like being a grandma." I said, "Yeah, I'm a grandma, but so what? But who says that can? Why does that have to be like a little doily or whatever you put somewhere?
Right.
It can be an art piece." And the thing is, if you make yourself change and see it and transform it in different ways, and of course it's a fine art. Of Definitely, I think it's tremendous, and it's very, very powerful.
Clearly. Like clearly. Every time we do this show, it just becomes more of a like the idea of textile as disruptive and uncomfortable and not super duper pretty, and made by a woman's hands. Like it just becomes more and more obvious how powerful textile actually is. And I don't think that if it like, I don't know the word I want to, I again, I think it's obvious that because what, when you ask this question, when I ask this question, when I get answers from people, at the end of the day, the question that is biggest that goes unasked, like, what is fine art? Like what makes it fine? Is it the monetary value associated to it? Because nobody's gonna want to pay a ton of money for a doily, right? But why not? That's
Well, because I think society and the way that we've grown, and everything has like gone in on the last centuries. It has been like, that's a woman's stuff, or that's for decoration or whatever. But a doily can be so much more
yeah,
if you transform it. If you it And I love that, textile, you can you can disrupt a concept, and you can make it something else. And I think that that's the way things should be. I've made some crochet pieces or macrame that they're not supposed to be like this way or that way, and there's different. Even with photography, the same thing.
yeah,
Because you have to. Why not? Why does it have to be like, following the rules? And
yeah.
that's why I always say, fuck the rules. I couldn't care less. You have to learn them so you can or be able to break them. That's very important. You have to learn them first.
I love.
I
I just love that, like, fuck the rules always comes back around, not just in this conversation, but like when you said like I'm doing the rules too. Like there was a cheer that went around, like, yes, like
Yeah.
let's fuck the rules. Because at the heart of everything that I think all of us, like our community we're in, I think that's at the heart of what we're doing.
Hmm.
Artists, us as a gallery and a platform, the fama, everybody that we work with just has that, be able to walk into a textile show. It's a big quilt. I think it's gonna be like super nice and pretty, and it is super nice, and the pieces are gorgeous. Walk into the gallery, like you see, fuck the rules is right there. It's right by, like, to walk in and be like, I think it's so powerful to be able to manifest that in your art and also your like artistic process and endeavors. So with that said, I have one last question for you. And it's, what is your dream project? I've been asking this to everybody.
I'm not gonna tell you my dream project, although, but I'm telling you that it's coming, and it came into my mind. It came to me October 30th. So that was a week ago. and it's a huge project, and probably I'm gonna because I thought about Melanie because I it's a very, very big thing, and it would weave around different cultures. So,
You don't have to stand. I'm not going to pressure you. I understand the value of not thinking a lot about it.
but it's a thing. Well, I'm also very proud that I'm showing next the show opens on Friday, the Four Arts what's the name? I'm never forget with Fama. And where in Palm Beach,
Oh,
and the Society of Four Arts. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm very bad with names. And the piece that I'm showing them there is also, I think it's not traditional at all. Uh, not at all.
Okay.
And it has to do with all my, women are always the center of my work. And I think they will always be. I'm a woman, and I know what being a woman and breaking the rules means. And I think everybody's is able to do it and to grow for what they want. And my next project has to do with that. I
Nice.
think I've learned to be true to myself and that what I believe in,
Mm-hmm.
and saying fuck the rules if there are rules.
If there are rules.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, Maru. For imparting. Again, everyone keeps doing the same thing and I keep saying the same thing, but I'm going to be happy to say it for imparting all this wisdom. And sharing about like your journey to where you are right now in this moment. Um, I'm very appreciative. I know everybody I work with is super appreciative. And it's a blessing and an honor to get the opportunity.
Well, the one that it's blessed and grateful is me. And thank you for giving me the opportunity of being here. And I love that I had the time I had the opportunity to meet Melanie. I also want to thank Fama, because really they were the ones that made possible uh, to get to meet you. There were the ways, and it has been a great journey. Aurora has been, well, all of them.
Yeah.
The three of them are great ladies. And well, with you, it has been an honor getting to know you. And I know I showed you my book. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for this beautiful interview and this beautiful time, because it has been a beautiful conversation,
Yeah.
as you said, a conversation, not an interview. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Always, literally always.
Okay.
So to everybody watching, if you want to come check out Maru's Fuck the Rules in the gallery or Quilt Square, you can DM us. You maybe can DM Maru and see if when she's gonna be in there if you want to chat more with her. She's very intelligent, brilliant, and
Thank you.
woman. Or you can email hello@thegallery.com. The show's been extended till November 13th, which is next Saturday.
And they're wonderful artists there, and it's an experience looking at that quilt that has nothing to do with a traditional quilt. It's a tremendous quilt.
Oh God. Well, thank you again, Maru, and thank you to everybody who's watched.
And thank you for the opportunity. A big hug.
You too. Ciao.
Ciao.